There's a commonly repeated saying that I kind of like, which is, it's okay not to be okay. What I like about this saying is that it allows for unpleasant emotional states, and it acknowledges that life isn't always just this indefinitely super awesome experience, which we all know to be true. What I don't completely like about this statement is the undertone that, at least to me, is something like, but you will be okay again eventually, right? And we're all just really excited for that moment. So it's okay that you're not okay for now, but we do expect you to be okay eventually. And if you could hurry that along, that would be great. And that is not the way mental health works for some of us. I am 41 years old, and I don't know that I've ever been okay in like an indefinite chronic type of sense, which kind of seems to be the way the world in general defines being okay. I'm going to take this saying one step further today. I believe that it's okay if you just aren't really a very happy person. Not moment to moment, but like in your core being. If happiness is just kind of a rare experience for you that's difficult to have and difficult to hold on to, I think that's okay. I believe that it's okay if you don't smile easily. I believe that it's okay if you're afraid to notice your joy, because every time you notice it, it seems to disappear like it was a shadowy figure you saw out of the corner of your eye, but when you look at it, it's gone. Here's how I think of it. Every emotion, positive and negative, is an acute experience to some degree. Nobody stays happy or angry or excited about something for the rest of their lives. You might infrequently experience those emotions from moment to moment when you think about the thing, but you don't just stay permanently in some emotional state forever because of something that happened. So imagine that in your mind, you have a metaphorical bucket for every emotion you can experience. So there's a bucket for joy, a bucket for anger, a bucket for sadness, etc. You get the picture. Experiences that create an emotion are like pouring water into the bucket that holds that emotion. So when you do something that makes you happy, it's like someone is pouring into your happiness bucket. And the more full the bucket is, the more strongly you experience the feeling that the bucket holds. Some experiences create more intense emotional states than others. But each bucket has a hole, and the size of the hole determines how quickly that feeling passes for you. And again, the hole, this is a real physiological thing. When we experience an emotional reaction, it's because our neurotransmitters, or our brain chemicals, have moved from one neuron to the next. And they sit in these receptor sites and they transmit these chemicals, and those chemicals are what cause us to experience that emotion. And then at some point, they go back to their neuron of origin and stop sending the neurotransmitter, and you stop experiencing that emotion. That's a process called reuptake. So if you've ever been on a psychiatric medication and the acronym for the class of medication ended in RI, that stands for reuptake inhibitor. So it slows down the process of reuptake. Some people experience reuptake of certain neurotransmitters, and therefore the emotions associated with those neurotransmitters more quickly than others. So for example, if you have rapid serotonin reuptake, it means you don't stay calm or relaxed or peaceful very often. So it's like having a really big hole in your peace bucket. Everybody has a different mental framework. Some people have a really big hole in their anger bucket. They forgive easily. They move on quickly, and their minds just don't really hold on to feelings of anger for very long. If you're anything like me, the biggest hole probably is in your joy bucket, which is a really, really difficult one to have. Most pleasant experiences aren't intense enough to produce any feelings of joy for me. It's like the hole is so big that the water being poured in just goes into the hole. Like it never even is in the bucket at all. It's just straight through. Some experiences are strong enough to produce noticeable joy for me, but even when those things happen, that emotion just doesn't last very long for me. That bucket just drains really quickly. And I noticed this early on in life, and it really bothered me. I was like, why do I not stay happy even when really good stuff happens? Like I feel good in the moment, but it's gone so quickly. And when I was younger, I didn't know anything about, neurodiversity or anything like that. I just thought I was like stupid or not grateful or something like that. I thought there was something wrong with me in like a morality or functional kind of way. Like I was doing something wrong or just being difficult or being too picky or just didn't know how to appreciate good things. I got so frustrated with myself and so frustrated with this pattern that I basically dedicated my life to trying to feel good, but in a very maladaptive, like hedonistic kind of way, not in a healthy, functional way. I spent years of my life just doing whatever I thought would produce the most acute joy in the moment. I was just chasing happiness and pleasure and excitement. And I actually remember making a semi-conscious decision to just not care about the long-term consequences of my choices at all. I didn't feel like I had the luxury of caring because I didn't even know, like I was feeling so just flat and empty and miserable that I didn't even know if I was going to be around long enough for the consequences of my decisions to catch up to me. So that just didn't factor into my life at all. It was just pure hedonism. Like just do what feels good, chase joy with every fiber of your being like you're a lion stalking the wounded gazelle that is the happiness of your life. And the really sad thing is that still wasn't enough. Even a life calibrated for maximum acute joy could not produce enough joy to keep my bucket full for any real length of time. I could occasionally, like, all the stars would align and I'd be like, this was a good hour. And then that was about, and just back to baseline really quickly. I tried a lot of, frankly, self-destructive strategies to try to overload my brain with joy. I wasn't trying to be self-destructive. It's just that the only things that ever filled that bucket for even a brief period of time were very powerful things. And very powerful things tend to have higher consequences with their use. One thing I kept going back to over and over and over again, though, was gaming. My brain really likes gaming, and under the right circumstances, I experience a pretty good amount of joy while playing video games. But that hole in my joy bucket is so big that it was never enough. I could play video games, and I did this for 6, 8, 10 hours straight in some cases, and sometimes like with a friend. So it's even adding this additional layer of like social interaction and engagement to it. And within minutes of just this incredibly prolonged period of just nothing but lighthearted joy, within minutes, everything was just gone. It never lasted. It was never enough. After trying this unsuccessfully for years and years and years, I eventually had to face some pretty difficult truths about myself. I'm not a lighthearted individual. I take everything way too seriously. I'm not easygoing. I'm incredibly picky. Most things annoy me. And despite all of this, I have to somehow try and make a decent life for myself and not be completely miserable while I'm here. I decided to stop fighting against those things. And I decided to just accept this is just who I am. I am just not a very happy or content person. I stopped trying to fight it and I just let it be true. And two pretty amazing things happened when I accepted this truth about myself. The first one was just that I stopped feeling like crap about my inability to make myself happy. When I accepted that my brain is just not wired in a way that those feelings come easily for me or stay for any real length of time, I felt very free because I didn't feel like I had to keep chasing something that I just don't really experience very often. And maybe even more importantly, I didn't feel like I was supposed to turn myself into something that doesn't appear to be who I was meant to be. Again, I am 41 years old. If I had the ability to make myself this just easygoing, generally happy, life of the party type person, I think I'm a decently smart person. I think I would have figured it out by now. And so the fact that I haven't, despite trying really, really hard in a lot of different ways, including the hedonism life and also like studying psychology, I'm still me. And I think this is just the way that I'm built. And that's not something I have to be ashamed of or try to change. It just is me, and I have to figure out how to work with that truth instead of trying to change that truth. Because I tried really, really hard. And there is a tremendous sense of relief that comes from deciding to stop chasing something that you were never going to be able to catch. And the second thing, and perhaps even the more important thing, is that when I stopped spending all of my resources trying to fill this incredibly leaky joy bucket that I was just built with, I started spending more time and energy keeping other buckets full instead. Buckets that for me are less leaky. And I found that, at least for me, it's not that all buckets need to be full, because they won't. Never. That's not going to happen. It's more like your quality of life is more the cumulative effect of how full all the buckets that feel good are. And if there's one of them that you just cannot keep full, when you're pouring into this one over and over and over again, everything else runs dry. Things that could hold water or emotion for longer. I have found that my achievement bucket, for example, doesn't leak nearly as quickly as my joy bucket. That's why I really like the gym. When I have a good workout in the morning, I still feel at least a little bit good about that by that evening. And that duration of emotion is pretty much unheard of for me with joy. Like, nothing makes me happy for a whole day other than maybe like a life-changing experience of some kind. Nothing I can do consistently or regularly lasts an entire day for me for joy. But achievement, I can get that feeling for much longer. And so I have found that for me, that's a better use of my resources. That's a better bucket to pour into because it stays full for longer. My helping bucket is another one. It stays full for quite a long time. I like to help people. That's probably why I love doing what I do so much, both as just a therapist, as a content creator. Reading the comment, I probably don't say this enough to you guys. Really, thank you for the comments. Some of you email me. Some of you leave reviews on my book. I know I don't respond to a lot of these, but these really fill my helping bucket. Like, knowing that this stuff makes a difference to you guys, that does so much more for me than just going out and doing something fun. Like exponentially more. I feel good about that stuff for a long time. I mean, ultimately, my life just got so much better when I stopped trying to keep this joy bucket full. I accepted that it's going to be empty a lot of the time, and I found that just trying to be happy in that kind of way is not a very fruitful use of my resources. The last thing, I said there were two, but really there's kind of three. I found that when I'm less focused on joy and happiness, I actually experience it for a little bit longer because I'm not so obsessive over it. Anything in your life that you hyper focus on, you're going to become kind of rigid and perfectionistic about that thing. Like, just to give you a silly metaphor, I got kind of into watches like 9 months ago, and the first watch I got was like this $45 Casio, and I was just thrilled. It was so cool. I would just look at it and smile. And the more I learned about watches, the more I learned that's not a super awesome watch. And I learned about automatic watches and different types of watches and all this stuff. And now I'm super picky about watches, and I'm not happy with the Casio anymore. So sometimes the more you focus on something, the harder it is to be happy with what you have. And so when you focus on happiness, it becomes harder to be happy in this really weird, annoying, brain frustrating way. I mean, it's a little bit like when you try to fall asleep. The harder you try to fall asleep, the more stressed you feel, and typically the worse your insomnia gets. And it's like, when you don't focus on these things is when they happen. As soon as you notice them, they kind of just disappear. It's so frustrating. I hate it. Brains are just dumb sometimes. Anyway, the conclusion of this is, if you relate to me and you're just not a naturally happy person, I want you to consider accepting that and trying to accept that without judgment. And within that acceptance, maybe try to fill some of those other buckets instead and see if they don't stay full for longer. If you're anything like me, I think you might enjoy a better overall quality of life if you try to keep the buckets full that don't leak quite as quickly. Because we're all just built a little different from one another, and I think that's okay. I think that's the way it's supposed to be. As always, I hope this was helpful. I'd love it if you subscribe or leave a comment. As I just said, those mean a lot to me, so thank you for those. Take care. I'll see you next time.